The art of facilitating is different than the art of leading or the art of managing. And I just very rarely heard people describe good leaders as ones who can facilitate an experience like you just said. Like you just said, I was there to facilitate. And so where does facilitation as a skill set sit for the success of leaders in the future?
Yeah. I think we're reaching a really interesting place in human history where it's truly a reality that many people on our teams really do know so much more than we do. With the prolific nature of the internet, and then with, of course, the burgeoning capabilities of AI, leaders or managers owning a topic and knowing just more than everyone else is really probably going to go away forever because they can't possibly keep up and know more than everyone else. And nor do I believe they're supposed to. I think a leader needs to have wisdom. A leader needs to have perspective. And a leader needs to be able to move people from one existing place to a new reality over time and empower them and encourage them and show them how to get there. But that is in some way facilitation. I see it as a critical skill set because the role is less, you're not doing the job right, let me show you how to do it, which I think is not really great leadership anyway, even though it's an important part of maybe managing or training. But it's going to be much more about identifying and coordinating all the pieces within your organization to come together to solve the problem. And going, this team that we've assembled is now the team to solve this problem. And I'm going to step back and say, here's where we're trying to get to. I may have, like I did in Florida, an agenda, because it's my job is to at least think ahead and not be in the weeds and forecast where we need to go and at least directionally how to get there. But I'm going to invite you into it and say, okay, here's my best thought, my first draft, essentially, of how we need to go. What am I missing? How do we address this and approach this? And using that mind share and that experience in the room, get to an outcome that perhaps I didn't even visualize as possible, but was a better version of what we needed to do. So I think facilitation is certainly a key component of leadership now, but will definitely be more powerful in the future as we democratize knowledge at a very high level.
Yeah. I'm just loving this conversation with you, Joel. I feel like we should have like a quarterly sort of check-in with each other as we learn these new things with leaders. I was going to bring up the role of AI and if that has been something that has shown up in your podcast guests and how leaders are navigating this reality. And it sort of naturally came up. How is AI coming up in your conversations with leaders, or is it yet?
Yeah, so I'm happy to share a few things, but this is a topic that I admit I have not spent a ton of time thinking about. And it's probably predominantly because I think that leadership is one of those things that AI can never really help. In the sense of at the core of who we are, we want to connect human to human with someone else. We don't want to outsource leadership to an AI robot of some kind and lead people that way. People don't want to be led that way. They want to be led with true human connection. However, there's a few things that have stood out. One has been just as leaders in general, how can we visualize the future of work and the future of employees amongst the changes of AI and its impact at work? And with that recognition that AI will change jobs, affect jobs, how do we continue to lead through that and not have people feel discouraged on our team, fearful on our teams? I think the change of jobs and how, I think about the frontline, my podcast is called the Frontline Industry Podcast. And so we talk about the frontline worker a lot and how the frontline role will change potentially over time as AI gets more strong. And so maybe we reimagine the role, for example, of the barista. Can we get a robot to do all the work of making a coffee just as well as a person? Probably. It doesn't feel like a stretch to think that's likely a thing. Yeah. And so if we have less people doing that, can we look at the role of barista as something else, as a host for that location, of creating an experience for the guest in a more hotel front desk manager kind of way or concierge kind of way? That's come up a few times. And then I think the last one has been, at least I've been thinking about this, less on the podcast probably, but how can I leverage AI to problem solve issues in a trial and error situation without having to go to the employee and trial and error with the employee too?
Oh, interesting.
So for example, if I have an employee who's underperforming and I can input all the data into I like to use Claude.ai more than ChatGPT because it's a little more human in the way it responds. But I input, into Claude, you are this employee with these challenges, and here's the track record, and here's the things I need you to be comfortable doing eventually in this near term by this date. Here's who I am, SVP of sales, doing this thing. What are 10 ways I can encourage this employee to be more effective or whatever it may be? And now walk me through, as if you were that employee, me telling you this sort of thing, and
Right.
see how this fake employee now responds to me in this AI environment and go, ooh, I don't like the way that came out. Let me try that again. And just, I think that practice, especially for a new leader, I don't feel like I need that very often. I feel like I've seen enough stuff now where I don't really need
Yeah.
that. And I can kind of fly by the seat of my pants in a more natural way in addressing issues. But for that new frontline leader, manager at a restaurant who's now managing 16 employees for the first time, has been elevated from bartender to manager or whatever it may be. And unfortunately, in those industries, there's almost no leadership training. It's just
Right.
like, here's how to open and close the restaurant, and away you go. And so can we leverage AI to provide training and role play that training as a leader to at least effectively give them some sort of guidance? I think we can have a conversation as well.